On Christmas Eve, I received a surprise from my wife, Rachel Hayes, photos of her wedding to my terminally ill student, Caleb Reed. She stood on the moral high ground. He's dying. It's just a fake certificate. Don't be unreasonable. The student wept, begging for my blessing. I laughed. They say you shouldn't air your dirty laundry in public. Well, I decided to air it for everyone to see. I was going to make this holiday, season 1, to remember. When my phone vibrated, I was just placing the glazed ham on the table. Outside the window, scattered fireworks burst, illuminating the Chicago night sky for a second before fading into silence. On the TV, the host of the Christmas special was announcing the next act with high-pitched excitement, festive and loud. I took a deep breath. The air was filled with the aroma of dinner and the scent of home. My wife, Rachel, was an attending physician at City General. She was working the last shift on Christmas Eve, but had promised to be home by 8 o'clock for dinner. I glanced at the wall clock, 7:50 p.m. Just in time, I pulled out my phone, intending to ask where she was, but saw a message she had sent 5 minutes earlier. No text, just a few photos. I tapped the first one, and my pupils instantly contracted. The background was a private hospital room, hastily decorated with pink balloons and streamers. Rachel was wearing a pure white wedding dress, a look of holy, gentle compassion on her face. Beside her, wearing an ill-fitting suit, pale-faced but with feverish eyes, was my student Caleb. The second photo showed them leaning their heads together intimately, holding up a red booklet, a marriage certificate. The third was a close-up of that certificate. It showed the smiling faces of Rachel and Caleb, stamped with a bright red official seal. My stomach churned violently. The steaming Christmas dinner on the table instantly looked like a cold offering to the dead. The phone vibrated again. It was Rachel. I answered, but said nothing. It was quiet on the other end, save for the faint beeping of medical instruments. Lucas, you saw the pictures, right? Rachel's voice was calm, as always, even carrying a hint of indisputable tenderness. What is this? My voice was dry as sandpaper. Caleb, he doesn't have much time. She sighed, her tone filled with pity. His parents are in poor health. Their only wish is to see him settle down, to see him complete his life. I'm just helping him fulfill his final wish. So, you married him? I squeezed the words through my teeth. Don't think of it like that. Her voice took on a trace of impatience. The certificate is photoshopped. It's fake. The ceremony is just for his parents to see, just a few of us. Can you not be so unreasonable? This is a dying boy's final wish. As his teacher, do you have no compassion? Unreasonable. Compassion. The words were like two hot steel needles stabbing into my ears. A weak, tearful male voice came from the phone. Professor Miller, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I just wanted my parents to be at peace. I have only a few days left. Please grant us this, just out of pity for me. It was Caleb. I listened to the duet on the other end. One playing the Virgin Mary saving the world, the other playing the weak victim begging for sympathy. I suddenly laughed. I laughed out loud. Lucas? What are you laughing at? Rachel's tone turned alert. I'm laughing, I said, staring at the table of food prepared for her, enunciating every word, because they say you shouldn't air dirty laundry in public. But I'm going to air it for everyone to see. It's the holidays, after all. Let's make it a party. I hung up and blocked her number. One smooth motion. I picked up a fork, speared a piece of ham, and put it in my mouth. Cloyingly sweet, sickeningly salty. I chewed expressionlessly, then stood up, turned off the stove, keeping the soup warm, grabbed my car keys, and walked out. To the hospital. Some things had to be said face to face. Some facades had to be torn down in person. The smell of hospital disinfectant mixed with the holiday food deliveries created a grotesque odor. I walked straight to the VIP ward on the top floor. Caleb's family was well off. He was in the best suite. The door wasn't fully closed. I could hear suppressed sobbing inside. Caleb's mother. There was also a man whispering words of comfort, likely his father. Rachel is such a good child. It's a blessing from many lifetimes that our Caleb met her. Yes, but we've wronged her. When Caleb is gone, we must treat her like our own daughter. I pushed the door open. Everyone's gaze shot toward me. Caleb's parents froze, their faces showing awkwardness and a hint of hostility. Rachel was still wearing that wedding dress, sitting by the bed peeling an apple. Seeing me, her brow immediately furrowed, and Caleb in the bed looked like a frightened deer, timidly calling out, Professor. I ignored him. My eyes were fixed on Rachel. What are you doing here? She stood up, subconsciously blocking Caleb, her tone like she was questioning an ignorant child. Didn't I tell you? We'll talk, but not now, not here. Then when? After you finish mourning your widowhood. I asked calmly. Her face went pale. Caleb's father stepped forward. He looked like a respectable middle-aged man, but now his face was heavy with grief. Professor Miller, I know this is hard for you to accept, but a life is at stake. We only have this one son, and his greatest wish was, we really had no other choice. So, your no other choice gives you the right to build your happiness on my suffering? I looked around at them. Your wish requires my marriage as a funeral sacrifice. Professor, you can't say that. Caleb's mother wiped her tears, her voice becoming shrill. Our Caleb is dying. Rachel is doing a good deed. She's accumulating good karma. How can you be so selfish, so cold-blooded? Selfish? Cold-blooded. I repeated the words, looking at Rachel. Is that what you think too? Rachel avoided my eyes, whispering, Lucas, don't make a scene here. It's ugly. I'm making a scene. I took a step forward, closing in on her. Rachel, we've been married 3 years. I ask myself if I've ever wronged you. You're busy at work. I do all the housework. You say the department is stressful. I signed you up for flower arranging and yoga. You want to visit your parents for Christmas. Every year I drive you there on Christmas Eve and come back alone to be with my parents on Christmas Day. I made you my entire life. And you? My voice wasn't loud, but everyone in the room heard it clearly. What do you take me for? A fool you can sacrifice at will, define at will. Rachel's lips trembled. She couldn't speak. Professor, Caleb on the bed started his performance again, tears falling like heavy rain. It's all my fault. Don't blame DR. Hayes, she did it for me. I'll get on my knees for you. He said, struggling to get out of bed. His parents immediately rushed over to hold him down, and the scene instantly turned into chaos. Don't move. Son, don't move. The doctor said you can't get excited. I watched this farce coldly. Enough. I spoke. My voice wasn't loud, but it silenced everyone. I looked at Rachel and asked her one last time, Are you coming home with me now? She looked at me, then at the teary-eyed Caleb on the bed, struggle and pain visible on her face. Finally, she gritted her teeth and shook her head at me. Lucas, I am sorry. I can't leave tonight, she said. Caleb, he needs me. I understood. In her heart, a dying student was more important than her legal husband. Or rather, the satisfaction of playing the savior was far more important than maintaining our marriage. Okay, I nodded and pulled out my phone. I'll grant your wish. Right in front of them, I opened our family messaging group. The first thing I did was forward those piercing wedding photos and the Photoshop marriage certificate, untouched, into the group chat. The group included my parents, her parents, and all the aunts and uncles from both sides. The second thing I did was type a message, wishing my wife, Rachel Hayes, and my student, Caleb Reed, a happy marriage and 100 years of harmony. Lucas Miller. Top. Send. After doing all that, I shoved the phone back into my pocket and looked at Rachel and Caleb's parents, whose faces had instantly turned sheet white. Didn't you want a celebration? I pulled the corner of my mouth into a smile. Now it's a party. With that, I turned and walked away without looking back. From the hospital room behind me came the chaotic symphony of message alerts going off wildly, followed by Rachel's exasperated scream. Lucas, are you crazy? Crazy? No. I was very lucid. Back home, I deadbolted the door. The apartment was quiet. The Christmas special on TV was still tirelessly manufacturing fake joy. I walked over and turned it off. The table of carefully prepared Christmas dinner had gone cold. Just like my heart, my phone vibrated like mad in my pocket. I didn't need to look to know who it was. My parents, her parents, and all those relatives who swarmed like sharks smelling blood. I didn't answer. I just put it on silent. I sat on the sofa, sitting quietly in the dark for a long time. I wasn't grieving and I wasn't angry. I was analyzing the game. I was reviewing my marriage with Rachel, reviewing when and how Caleb, this student, had infiltrated our lives. Caleb was a student in my elective course, Appreciation of Romantic Literature. He always sat in the front row, eyes bright, actively answering questions. He would stay after class to discuss the origin of a literary illusion with me for ages. A studious, sunny, polite student. Later, he said he was in poor health and was diagnosed with a rare blood disease. After that, he started messaging me frequently, not about studies, but about his confusion regarding life, his fear of death. As a teacher, I counseled him, encouraged him. Rachel was a doctor. I thought she could give him advice from a more professional perspective. So, one weekend, I invited Caleb out and brought Rachel along for dinner. That was the most regrettable decision of my life. From that day on, Rachel took over Caleb. She would actively contact him, asking about his condition. She used her connections to get him expert consultations. She would drag me to the hospital to see him, bringing him a soup I had simmered myself. I had once subtly reminded her to maintain boundaries. She looked at me like I was a monster. Lucas, he is a patient, a dying boy. What is going on in your head? Right, what was I thinking? I actually suspected a kind doctor and a pitiful student. I became the one with the dirty mind. Thinking back now, that wasn't kindness. That was the onset of her savior complex. She was intoxicated by the script of saving a life, unable to extricate herself. And Caleb used his exquisite acting skills to satisfy her desire to be the protagonist. The two of them, one willing to beat, the other willing to suffer. And I was the audience member kept in the dark, expected to applaud them. I opened my laptop and logged into my social accounts. The family group chat had already exploded. My parents were frantically tagging me, asking what was happening. Rachel's parents were tagging Rachel, also demanding answers. Rachel finally appeared in the group. She sent a long voice message, her voice crying, the content similar to the version I had heard. Basically, Caleb had a terminal illness, didn't have long to live, and to satisfy his parents' wish, she acted out this scene. The marriage certificate was fake. Everything was fake. She was just doing a good deed. Then, she started accusing me. Lucas, I didn't expect you to be so cold-blooded, so unreasonable. I just wanted to help a pitiful child. But you had to blow things up like this. Do you have a heart? Immediately after, Caleb's mother, the woman who had just called me selfish, was pulled into the group by Rachel. She immediately posted a photo of Caleb lying in a hospital bed wearing an oxygen mask, looking miserable, with the caption, "Our Caleb is fading fast. Professor Miller, we beg you, please have mercy. Leave the child a final shred of dignity. We are kneeling to you." Suddenly, the sentiment in the group began to shift. Some relatives who didn't know the truth started advising me. Lucas, it's the holidays, don't be impulsive. Yeah, the boy's dying, just consider it good karma. Your wife has a good heart. You're a grown man, be the bigger person. Reading these peacemaker messages, I laughed. This was Rachel's tactic, inverting black and white, moral kidnapping, placing herself in a position of absolute righteousness so everyone would think I was the one in the wrong. I didn't argue with them in the group. I opened another chat window. It was my childhood friend, David Ross. He was a lawyer. I sent him the entire sequence of events, along with all the screenshots. Finally, I asked him, if I want a divorce and want her to leave with nothing, what are my odds? David called almost instantly. Odds? 100%. His voice carried suppressed anger. This isn't just infidelity. This is a public insult. Lucas, don't worry, I'll handle this. We won't just get a divorce. We'll ruin her reputation. Ruin her reputation? I muttered to myself. Yes, David said. Do you think the hospital will be okay with an attending physician creating this kind of fake marriage scandal with her own patient, who is also your student? What would her colleagues think? As long as we fan the flames enough, she won't be a doctor anymore. I was silent for a moment. Dave, I don't want to destroy her, I said. I just want to take back what belongs to me. Like dignity. Like justice. I get it. David calmed down. What's the plan? I looked at the computer screen, at the pitiful selfie Rachel had posted in the group, and the corner of my mouth hooked into a cold sneer. Step 1, family. I've already done that. Step 2, the workplace. I opened our university's internal faculty and student portal. As a staff member, I had posting privileges. I started a new thread and began to type. For the title, I thought for a moment and wrote, regarding the moving doctor-patient romance between Dr. Hayes of a university hospital and junior student Caleb Reed, a husband's Christmas Eve chronicle. The post was anonymous, but I detailed the entire sequence of events, from how Caleb became my student, to how Rachel kindly intervened, to this absurd wedding on Christmas Eve. I didn't use overly emotional words. I simply stated the facts calmly. The calmer it was, the more shocking it appeared. Of course, I attached the key evidence. That photoshopped marriage certificate, the wedding photos of them in the dress and suit, and the screenshots of my conversation with them in the family group. I used aliases for all parties. Rachel was Dr. Ush. Caleb was Student C. I was a heartbroken husband, but I believed that anyone from the university or the hospital could guess who it was with a little thought. Less than 10 minutes after the post went up, the view count broke 1,000. The replies below quickly shifted from, "Is this real?" to uniform shock and anger. WTF. Seeing this kind of drama on Christmas is earth-shattering. Dr. Ush, Student C, our school, the affiliated hospital. This is heavy. If what the OP says is true, this Dr. H is disgusting, betraying her family under the banner of kindness. That Student C isn't any good either, right? Knowing she's his teacher's wife and pulling this stunt? Being terminally ill makes you special. Being sick means you can steal someone else's wife. The worst part is the OP. Prepared a whole Christmas dinner waiting for his wife, only to get cuckolded. Simply the most tragic husband of the year. Public opinion was fermenting exactly as I had predicted. Doing all this, I closed my laptop, went into the bathroom, and took a hot shower. As the water poured over my head, I felt my tight nerves finally relax a little. It wasn't the pleasure of revenge. It was the relief of lancing a festering wound and squeezing out the pus. Short-term pain is better than long-term suffering. Since this home was already rotten, I might as well tear it down with my own hands. It was better than lingering in the ruins. The next day, Christmas Day, I was woken up by frantic doorbell ringing. I got up from the sofa, the blanket slipping to the floor. Through the peephole, I saw Rachel's haggard and angry face. Beside her stood her parents, looking equally furious. I opened the door. Lucas. As soon as the door opened, my mother-in-law charged in, pointing at my nose. Look at what you've done. Are you only happy now that everyone knows? You've completely embarrassed our family. I ignored her and looked at Rachel. She was wearing yesterday's clothes, a down jacket thrown over the wedding dress, looking utterly disheveled. Her eyes were red and swollen, staring dead at me. Did you write the post? She asked. Yes, I admitted frankly. She seemed infuriated by my calmness, her voice suddenly rising in pitch. Why would you do this? Do you know that because of your post, the hospital leadership called me overnight? The school is investigating too. You are going to ruin me. I ruined you. I laughed out of anger. Rachel, you ruined our home first. When you wore that wedding dress to marry another man, did you stop to think that you would ruin me? That was fake. I told you it was fake, she screamed hysterically. Fake enough to Photoshop a marriage license? Fake enough to wear a wedding dress? Fake enough to leave me alone at home on Christmas Eve? I stepped closer to her. Tell me, what else is fake? Is your care for him fake? Is your betrayal of me fake? She backed away step by step, lips trembling, unable to speak. Enough, my father-in-law shouted in a low voice. Lucas, I know you're angry, but Rachel's intentions were good. She's just too soft-hearted. She can't stand seeing others suffer. Can't you just understand her this one time? Understand? I looked at this elder I once respected. Dad, if today I held a fake wedding with a dying female student, would you ask Mom to understand me? My father-in-law's face instantly turned purplish red. You are being unreasonable. I'm just talking sense. I withdrew my gaze and looked back at Rachel, my heart cold. Let's get a divorce. I've already asked David to prepare the agreement. The apartment is premarital property. It stays with me. You bought the car, it's yours. Savings split 50-50. I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. Hearing the word divorce, Rachel swayed. She probably thought I was just throwing a tantrum, that as long as she coaxed me and softened up, this incident would blow over like countless arguments before. She didn't expect I was serious this time. No, I don't agree to a divorce. She grabbed my arm, her tone softening as tears began to fall. Lucas, I was wrong. I was really wrong. I shouldn't have been so impulsive. Shouldn't have ignored your feelings. Forgive me this once, okay? Let's not divorce. Her tears used to be my greatest weakness. But now, watching her cry, I only felt incredible irony. I gently pulled her hand away. Rachel, it's too late, I said. The moment you decided to put on that wedding dress, we were already over. As for you, I looked at my mother-in-law who hadn't spoken for a moment. You said I embarrassed your family. Rest assured, the real embarrassment is yet to come. After getting rid of the unwanted guests, I called David. Dave, check something for me. Shoot. Caleb Reed, the student. I want to know exactly what disease he has, which hospital he's treating at, who the attending physician is. I want all the diagnostic reports. You suspect his illness is fake? David understood immediately. I don't know, I said. I just feel that a person who is truly dying wouldn't have such dirty thoughts. The way he looked at Rachel didn't look like a student looking at a teacher's wife. It looked more like he was eyeing a trophy he was determined to win. That look, a mix of pathological possessiveness and smugness. I had seen it clearly during the confrontation at the hospital. All right, leave it to me, David said. I have contacts in the medical system. Checking this won't be hard. Wait for my news. Hanging up, I started cleaning the apartment. Everything related to Rachel. Her clothes, her cosmetics, our photos. I packed it all into 3 large boxes and stacked them by the door. Then, I changed the passcode on the door lock. After doing all this, I felt the apartment finally belonged to me again. That afternoon, I received a call from my dad. His voice was weary. Son, come home. I drove to my parents' house. As soon as I entered, I saw my mom sitting on the sofa wiping tears, while my dad smoked silently nearby. Dad, Mom, I called out. Seeing me, my mom's tears fell harder. Lucas, you've suffered. I walked over, sat beside her, and patted her back. Mom, I'm fine. How can you be fine? She grabbed my hand, her palm ice cold. That woman, how dare she treat you like this? And her parents, they just called. Instead of apologizing, they said you weren't being generous, that you didn't know how to behave. What kind of family is that? My dad stubbed out his cigarette in the ashtray and said deeply, divorce. You must divorce. The Miller family will not have such a daughter-in-law. My heart warmed. This was my family. They wouldn't indiscriminately advise me to be the bigger person, nor force me to compromise because of family scandal. They would always stand by my side. Dad, Mom, don't worry. I can handle this myself. I soothed them. I will divorce. But not right now. Why? Mom didn't understand. Because the show has just begun. I looked at the gray sky outside the window. I want everyone to see clearly whether they are a pair of kind angels or a pair of shameless cheats. For the next 2 days, I didn't go out. The thread on the university portal continued to ferment, even getting screenshotted and reposted to several famous local forums and Twitter, sparking broader discussion. The pressure on the university and the hospital grew. Rachel called me countless times and sent hundreds of texts. From initial cursing to later begging, then to reminiscing about her sweet past. She used every trick in the book. I ignored them all. On the night of December 27th, David called. His voice betrayed suppressed excitement. Lucas, I found it. Well, my heart jumped. You guessed right. That Caleb kid isn't terminally ill at all. David said, he does have a blood disorder called aplastic anemia. It's troublesome and requires long-term treatment, but it is absolutely not a terminal illness. As long as he sticks to the treatment and finds a bone marrow match, the cure rate is very high. His current condition is stable. The attending physician's plan is conservative drug therapy. He is nowhere near running out of time. He's been exaggerating his condition. David added, I asked around. The nurses on his team say this patient is a huge actor. He's fine, but as soon as family comes, he moans and groans, saying he's dying. His parents are the same, telling everyone their son has a terminal illness to gain sympathy. I held the phone, silent for a long time. It felt like cold magma was surging through my blood. So, from beginning to end, this was a scam. A scam carefully planned by Caleb, passionately performed by Rachel, and jointly produced by his whole family. A complete fraud in the name of love and kindness. They deceived me, and they deceived everyone. Lucas, what are you going to do? David asked. I took a deep breath, making my voice sound calm enough. Dave, organize all the diagnostic reports, medical records, and the insider info you gathered into a file. And then, I said, looking at the city shrouded in night, enunciating each word, I'm going to send them a New Year's gift. I didn't release the truth about Caleb's medical records immediately. I was waiting for a moment to bring this drama to its climax. Rachel was suspended by the hospital. A colleague at the university secretly told me this news. Apparently, the hospital leadership talked to her, and she still insisted she was innocent, claiming it was a good deed to save a life. But the impact of the online posts was too great. To quell public opinion, the hospital had to ask her to go home and rest. She must have been desperate, because she started calling my parents. I had warned them in advance not to answer. On December 29th, I received an unexpected call. It was Caleb's father. His tone was no longer one of grief and pleading, but full of venom and threat. Lucas Miller, what exactly do you want? He got straight to the point. Ruining Rachel's job wasn't enough? You have to drive our whole family to death. Drive you to death? I asked back, what did I do? Stop pretending, he roared. If it weren't for the things you posted, would Rachel be suspended? Would our family become the laughingstock of the entire hospital? I'm telling you, if anything happens to my son, I won't let you get away with it. Isn't your son supposed to be dying anyway? I said indifferently. Sooner or later, what's the difference? Silence on the other end. I could imagine the look on his face, choked by my words. Miller, leave a way out for people, and we might meet again down the road. He suppressed his anger. Name a price. How much money to delete the post and clarify the situation? Solve it with money? They finally showed their true colors. Sure, I said. Flat rate, $5 million. I get the money. I post immediately saying it was all a misunderstanding, that I had a mental breakdown and slandered you all. $5 million? Why don't you go rob a bank? He shrieked. Then there's nothing to talk about. I prepared to hang up. Wait, he panicked. $50,000. I'll give you $50,000 max. You delete the post, divorce Rachel, and never harass us again. $50,000. Buying out my dignity, buying out my wife's betrayal. In their eyes, that was what I was worth. Accepted, I said calmly. But I have a condition. What condition? I want you, your wife, and Rachel to meet me face to face. In Caleb's hospital room, I said, and bring the 50,000 in cash. Once I see the money and your sincerity, we'll discuss the rest. He hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth and agreed. Fine. Tomorrow morning at 10, at the hospital. Hanging up, I immediately called David. Dave, tomorrow morning at 10, showtime. Bring your best voice recorder and hidden camera and pick me up at my place. Copy that. David's voice trembled with excitement. Finally going head to head, I can't wait. Neither could I. I couldn't wait to tear off their last fig leaf with my own hands. The next morning, I wore a black casual outfit and met David at the hospital entrance. He handed me something that looked like a fountain pen. HD video, long battery life, records whatever you point at. He winked. Voice recorder is in your pocket, already running. I nodded and walked into the inpatient department with him, pushing open the door to Caleb's room. Everyone was indeed there. Caleb's parents sat on the sofa, faces gloomy. Rachel stood by the window, looking out, her figure gaunt and expression haggard. Caleb was half reclining on the bed. Seeing me, a flash of imperceptible triumph and resentment crossed his eyes. A black briefcase sat on the floor by their feet. You brought the money. I got straight to the point. Caleb's father pointed at the case on the floor. 50,000, not a penny less. Now, you can state your conditions. I didn't look at the money. Instead, I walked up to Rachel. My condition is simple. I looked at her. I want you, in front of everyone, to admit you were wrong. Admit you betrayed me. Admit that your so-called kindness was just an excuse to satisfy your own ego. Rachel's body stiffened. She jerked her head up to look at me, eyes full of humiliation and unwillingness. Lucas, don't go too far, Caleb's mother shrieked. Too far. I laughed. Compared to what you've done, is this small request too far? I turned to Caleb's parents. And you too. I want you to apologize to me for your previous lies and insults. Dream on. Caleb's father slammed his hand on the table and stood up. Looks like we can't make a deal. I shrugged and turned to leave. Wait. Rachel stopped me. She took a deep breath, as if making a huge sacrifice, closed her eyes, and said with a trembling voice, Okay, I admit it. Lucas, I'm sorry I was wrong. I shouldn't have disregarded your feelings. I shouldn't have. Before she could finish, Caleb on the bed suddenly began to cough violently. Caleb, his mother cried out and threw herself over. A perfectly timed medical episode interrupted Rachel's confession. This routine again. I watched them scrambling to act, feeling utterly disgusted. All right, stop acting, I said coldly. Everyone froze and looked at me. Caleb, I walked to the bedside, looking down at him. Let me ask you, is aplastic anemia considered a terminal illness? Caleb's pupils contracted sharply. His parents' faces also instantly turned ghastly pale. Rachel looked at me in disbelief, her mouth opening and closing, but making no sound. What are you saying? I don't understand. Caleb's voice started to shake. Don't understand? I pulled a stack of printed documents from my pocket and threw them onto his blanket. It was the complete medical file David had obtained for me, along with anonymous evaluations from several domestic blood disease specialists. Need me to read it to you? I picked up the first page. Caleb Reed, male, 21. Diagnosis, aplastic anemia, chronic. Treatment plan, regular blood transfusions, medication control. Prognosis evaluation, stable. Vitals, stable. With every word I read, Caleb's face grew a shade whiter. Expert opinion 1. The patient's condition is far from life-threatening. The claim of running out of time is purely exaggerated. Expert opinion 2. The patient exhibits signs of factitious disorder or reverse psychology regarding illness shame, exaggerating the condition to gain sympathy and control others. Psychological intervention is recommended. I threw the document back in his face and smiled at the deathly gray look on him and his parents. Now, do you understand? Do you need me to speak louder so the whole floor, the whole hospital can hear your touching story? Dead silence filled the room. Caleb's father's lips trembled, pointing at me, unable to get a word out. His mother collapsed on the floor, eyes vacant. And Rachel, she looked at the file in my hand, then at the pale Caleb on the bed, her entire worldview seemingly collapsing. Fake. It's all fake, she muttered to herself. Caleb, he told me clearly the doctor said he had 6 months at most. He told you. I turned to her, eyes cold. So, as an attending physician, you didn't verify the patient's actual condition? You just took his word for it and believed it? And staged this drama of self-sacrifice for love? She was speechless. You didn't trust him. You trusted what you wanted to trust. I hit the nail on the head. You needed a stage to display your kindness and greatness too badly. And Caleb provided you with just the right script. One liar, one fool, truly a match made in heaven. No, that's not it. Rachel shook her head painfully, tears gushing out. Professor, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Caleb on the bed finally gave up resisting and started wailing. I didn't mean to. I just like Dr. Hayes too much. I was afraid if I didn't say it, I'd never have a chance. That's why I lied to her. As he cried, he looked at Rachel, his eyes full of pleading. Dr. Hayes, don't be mad at me. I love you. That, I love you, was like a loud slap across Rachel's face. And across mine. It turned out this wasn't just a scam. It was a long premeditated theft of love in the name of death. Shut up. Caleb's father finally reacted, rushing over to cover his son's mouth, but it was too late. I looked at the chaotic scene before me and felt that staying any longer was meaningless. All truths were revealed. All disguises were torn. I picked up the black briefcase from the floor and waited. I'll take this $50,000 as damages for my emotional distress, I said calmly. You can't take that. Caleb's father rushed over to grab it. I dodged sideways, avoiding him. Why can't I? I looked at him. You gave this voluntarily. Or would you prefer I call the police right now and report you for fraud? He froze. I pulled open the ward door. David was leaning against the wall, giving me an okay sign. I took one last look at the people in the room. Caleb crying, his parents cursing, Rachel standing there like a wooden puppet. A portrait of a farce. All right, I walked to the door, remembered something, and turned back to Rachel. Lawyer Ross will send you the divorce agreement ASAP. I advise you to sign it quickly. Otherwise, I can't be sure where the video from today will appear. I waved the pen in my hand. Rachel's face completely lost all color. Walking out of the hospital, the winter sunlight hit me, actually feeling a bit warm. Yes, David punched my shoulder. That was so damn satisfying. You should have seen their faces, like they ate flies. I smiled and tossed the briefcase to him. That's your legal fee. Holy crap, this much. David was shocked. You earned it, I said. Let's go get a drink. My treat. We needed a drink. To toast my dead marriage. And to toast my impending rebirth. I never released that video recorded in the hospital room. Not out of softness, but because it was unnecessary. David sent a copy of the video along with the divorce papers to Rachel. She signed the next day. We divorced quickly, and the asset division followed my demands exactly. She left with almost nothing. The day the paperwork was finalized, we met at the courthouse entrance. She had lost a lot of weight, her eyes sunken, looking 10 years older. Lucas, are we really just ending like this? She looked at me, holding on to a last shred of hope. I didn't speak. I just held up the divorce decree for her to see. The stamp was piercing to the eyes. The light in her eyes went out completely. Can I ask you one last question? Her voice was hoarse. Ask, did you ever love me? I looked at her, remembering when we first got together, how she stood on tiptoe in the university library to help me organize shelves. Remembering when we married, how she wore her wedding dress and smiled so brightly at me. Those scenes were once so real. I did, I said calmly. But when you decided to wear another wedding dress to save someone else, that love died. With that, I turned and left, never looking back. I heard about their aftermath from others. Rachel was fired by the hospital. Because of that scandal, her reputation in the city's medical system was destroyed. No reputable hospital would hire her. Finally, I heard she went to a remote community clinic to work as a nurse. Caleb dropped out of school. The fraud scandal left him no face to stay. His parents sold their city apartment and took him back to their hometown. His illness didn't get better, nor did he die. He just dragged on, neither well nor dead. Rumor has it Rachel went back to their hometown with them, working odd jobs while taking care of Caleb. Perhaps she really wanted to play out that drama of redemption to the bitter end. Or perhaps she simply had nowhere else to go. None of this had anything to do with me anymore. I used that 50 grand to take a long vacation. I went to a cabin in Vermont, reading, drinking tea, and soaking up the sun by the lake every day. I resigned from the university. That city held too many bad memories. I sent out resumes online, and soon a prestigious university in the South extended an olive branch with a position and salary much better than before. My life, after tearing everything down, welcomed the dawn of reconstruction. 1 year later, in the new city, I had completely adapted to my new life. My classes were popular with students, and in my spare time, I started writing columns on classical literature, gaining some fame. Life was quiet and fulfilling. I also met someone new. Her name was Sophie Clark, an art teacher at the school, a girl who loved to laugh and paint. We met at a faculty mixer. She didn't know my past, She just thought my lectures were interesting and that I was gentle. We walked together, visited art galleries, and discussed Van Gogh and Hemingway. Being with her, I felt relaxed. I didn't need to accommodate anyone, nor did I need to guard against anyone. We were equals, respecting each other. On a beautiful weekend, we made it official. She took me to her studio. In the studio, there was a half-finished oil painting. It was a field of sunflowers, blooming recklessly and brilliantly under the sun. I like sunflowers, she said, because they always face the sun. I looked at her profile, gilded by the sunlight, and a frozen corner of my heart quietly melted. Maybe I was a sunflower too. After enduring the long night and the storm, I had finally waited for my own sun. That night, I confessed my past to her. I thought she would be shocked, afraid, but she just listened quietly, then gently hugged me. It's all in the past, she whispered in my ear. You're good, Lucas. You just had bad luck before. I hugged her back tightly. Yes, it was all in the past. That absurd farce, that failed marriage, felt like a lifetime ago. They left scars on me, but those scars made me stronger and taught me to cherish the person in front of me. Another Christmas Eve, Sophie and I were in my new home, preparing dinner. She wasn't much of a cook, clumsily helping me wash and sort vegetables. We chatted while watching the Christmas specials on TV. When the midnight bells rang, brilliant fireworks rose outside the window. Sophie hugged me from behind, resting her chin on my shoulder. Merry Christmas, Lucas. Merry Christmas, Sophie. I turned around and kissed her. My phone vibrated with a news notification. Local police successfully crack major medical fraud case. Suspect Caleb Reed and parents criminally detained for using fake medical condition to defraud social donations and charity of over $1 million. The photo accompanying the news showed Caleb and his parents in handcuffs, heads bowed, being escorted by police. In the corner of the photo, there was a woman chasing the police car, crying and shouting something. That face vaguely resembled Rachel. It turned out that after returning to their hometown, they hadn't stayed out of trouble. Instead, they pulled the same trick, using Caleb's terminal illness to launch crowdfunding campaigns online, swindling massive amounts of donations. The net of justice is wide and lets nothing through. They finally paid the price for their greed and deceit. What are you looking at? Sophie leaned over curiously. I quickly locked the screen. Nothing, just spam. I smiled and ruffled her hair. Come on, let's eat the ravioli. I made your favorite spinach and ricotta filling. Yay! She cheered happily. Looking at her brilliant smile, my heart was at peace. Those people, those things had completely turned the page. They would spend their new year in prison. And I, amidst the lights of 10,000 homes, was embracing my new life. This, perhaps, was the best ending. Epilogue. After dinner, Sophie and I curled up on the sofa to watch a movie. She suddenly asked me, Lucas, if one day your ex-wife came back to find you, what would you do? I paused, not expecting her to ask that. I looked in her clear eyes and thought seriously. I wouldn't see her, I said. Why? Because there's no point. I picked up an orange and slowly peeled it. Some people like a bad flu. It's miserable when you're sick, but once you're better, there's no need to reminisce about what the virus looked like. All we can do is exercise and try not to get sick again. I fed a segment of the orange to her. She chewed it, eyes squinting from the sweetness. Then, what about that student? She asked again. Do you hate him? I shook my head. No chat. I can't even call it hate. I just feel. Pity, I said. He used all his schemes, thinking he snatched the candy he wanted. But he didn't know that candy was poison from the start. Sophie nodded, seemingly understanding. She didn't know that just a moment ago, David had sent me a message. It was about Rachel. After Caleb's family was arrested, Rachel was implicated and investigated as an accomplice. However, because she was deceived and used and actively returned the stolen money, she wasn't prosecuted. But her life was completely ruined. Her job was gone, her reputation was gone, and even the object of her salvation was in prison. She became somewhat mentally unstable, wandering the streets of her hometown all day, mumbling, I did it to save a life. I am kind. I did nothing wrong. David said at the end of the message, Lucas, this is truly satisfying justice. I looked at the message and didn't reply. Satisfying justice? Maybe, but my heart felt no ripples. I simply turned off my phone and held Sophie a little tighter. The fireworks outside the window continued. The new year had arrived, and I was already speeding forward on the track of my new life.